Hi everyone, good afternoon. So I'm Faizan and I'm recording this session for average. Average is a topic in the quant section that comes in these examinations, IPMAT and other examinations. So today we'll discuss the idea of average. Now, when it comes to average, you will have to first understand at the concept level. Now, when it comes to understanding at a concept level, we need to understand that average is the sum of all the terms that you find and then divide by the number of terms. So that's the formula. What you have to do is it is a sum of anything that you want to measure. For example, you want to measure weights of a students in a class. You want to measure marks of a students in a class. You add all the marks and then divide by the number of such terms, and then you are able to get the value of average. So that is the core concept around average. But what I also want to tell you is that when it comes to average, you will have to be careful in differentiating between these two terms, which is what is the difference between average and maybe I'll write it here. Sorry, what is the difference between average and median? Average and median. Be very careful in knowing the difference between these two terms. So what is average? Average of anything. For example, if you want to figure out the average of a group of people, let's say you're sort of going out for eating, you want to ensure that what is the average spent that will occur, because that is the total bill that you have to pay upon divided by the number of people who are going for a party. That's the average. So as I told you, I'm trying to give you a real life example. So that would be a good real life example where you guys go on for, let's say you're having biryani or you're having something with your friends and or with your family members. And what happens as a result is that you kind of divide all the expenses of each one. And then, sorry, you first add all the expenses of each one and then you divide by the number of people. So that will give you the average. But usually there's a difference between average and median. And the best example for that, as I'll often tell, is the college placements in India. In Indian scenario, the college placements will give you two figures. The first figure that you will get is on the average. Second figure that you will get is on medians. And those two figures are important to understand the difference in terms of what are the differences between those two figures. So when it comes to averages, you remember that averages and medians are not same. So averages will be just the sum of all the offers that has been given by the number of students. But median will give you the middle picture, which means that if you arrange all the offers, what is the middle number? That middle number is corresponding to the median. So if you are sort of able to arrange everything, like you arrange everything in a straight line, but in an order, either it is a descending order or it's a ascending order. So if you are able to arrange everything in such an order, then the middle term will basically give you the value of median, right? So, so that's the better idea. So imagine that you are starting from yeah, imagine for you're starting from a small number, maybe you're starting from 10 LPA or 12 LP, and then you are, as you progress, you're moving to 15, 20, and so on till a higher number. Now, if you are able to arrange all of them in an ascending fashion, then the middle term or the middle number will basically be the value of median. So this is a wonderful example where you are able to differentiate between, this is a wonderful example where you're able to differentiate between these two ideas, and then we can move further, right? So let's understand more about averages. So, all right. So when it comes to averages, if you remember that usually in classes, averages are taught first in a conceptual fashion, and then we move on to the concept, some of the questions where we discuss this concept. But there's one more concept that we want to discuss, that the concept is weighted average. So what is weighted average? Let me just write it over here, and then we can sort of understand it better. So what is weighted average? So usually weighted average is discussed in the context of averages of different groups of people. So if you have groups of people like your boys and girls, or if you have groups of people, basically categories, right? For example, there are different things, but you're measuring the same. There are different categories, but you're measuring the same same measurement. Sorry, same metric. Metric is same. There can be many examples of this. For example, in case you discuss, let's say, boys and girls and marks. So if you have the in a class there are people who are boys and who are people who are girls. So what happens is that boys, you were able to have the marks of each of the boy, and for girls you are able to have the marks of each of the girls. Now, if you are able to add all of the marks, then you get the sum of all the marks of all the boys. And the same is true for girls. If you are able to add all of the marks, you're able to get the sum of all the marks of all the girls. Now, weighted average will be coming into picture when I ask you, hey, please tell me what is the average of all the marks of all the students. I don't want the average of boys or I don't want the average of girls, but what I want is the average of all the people in the class. So in that case, your weighted average comes in. Now, there's one more thing that you need to understand over here, which is that there's a formula for weighted average. So usually what happens is that weighted average can be found out from this formula, which is n of a plus what is n? Number of people, and a is the corresponding average for that particular group of people. Maybe m of b upon n plus m. Look at this formula very carefully. So what you have in this formula is that first there is a group of people and we call that, let's say, boys. Another group of people, let's call that girls. So A and B, that is the number which is the corresponding to the average. So average of boys is A, average of girls is B. So n of A plus m of B will be the number of people with that. For example, if it is boys, so n is the number of boys, and same is true for girls. So this is the beautiful formula. It's used in a number of items, and it's also useful in another topic called mixtures and allocations. You will see that when you're mixing two things or and so on, this topic will again come into play. This is known as weighted average. All right, wonderful. Let's see further. So in this chapter, we're going to have questions. In this chapter, you're going to have questions. Questions will be on questions on average and also questions on weighted average. Right? So let's see, what are the questions on average? What are the questions on weighted average? So first of all, let me figure out a question on average. And then I will show you how to use that formula that I've told you. And then we can move on from there. So first question is something that I'm going to write over here. And you can also pause and solve it for yourself. So this is the question. Yeah. Before I move to a weighted average question, I will give you a first question on average only, so that you first understand. I'm just writing a question from a book I have currently. So maybe I'll start with a very basic question first. The question is like this. The weight of five persons, the weight of five persons are 45, 55, 60, 45, 55, 50, 60, and 35. These are the weight of five people given to you. And now I want to tell you I want to ask you what is the average weight? What is the average weight of one person, right? Now, remember the five data points are corresponding. There are different figures that is known to you. And you have to understand and don't tell me what is the average weight of the. So I'll use the formula. What is the sum? If you add all the numbers, what do you get? You will get 45 plus 55. Just try and add all of the numbers. 45 plus 55 plus 56. If you add all of them, what happens is that you end up getting something, and what you end up getting is 100, 245. Then divide by the number of terms, and you get 49, right? So 49 is the average weight of all the people in the group. Okay. Let's go to the next question. Same concept, basic concept. I will basically give you concept on average. The question is like this: the average weight of 8 men, right? Of 8 men is reduced by 2 kg When one man weighing 80 kg, when one man weighing when one man weighing 80 kg is replaced by a new man, Find the weight of new man. Find the weight of new man. So this is a question which is slightly in terms of a word statement. We do not have direct data points, but you can still go on to use the same or idea of sum and a number of terms and figure out the answer. So the average weight of 8 men, let's call it, let's let the average be X. Let the average be X. Now, if you have the average as X, then what will the sum? Sum will be 8, and then you multiply with X, so 8 into X. If the average is reduced by 2, that means the new average, we'll have to figure out the new average, but in terms of X. So the new average is what? X minus 2. And what is the difference? What is the new sum? Because there is a one person weighing 80 kg is replaced by a new man, right? So what happens is that from 8x, you'll subtract 80, but then there's something addition, so we'll add that plus y. Now, remember, this is the new average. Sorry, this is the new sum. But in this case, the number of people, the number of people are still same, but in this case, the average is new. It's x minus 2. So what I will do here is I'm going to multiply x minus 2 with the number of people. But remember that the new average and then the new average will give you a new sum, which is not the same as the earlier sum. And the difference is, what is the difference between x and y? Sorry, the difference is the difference between y and 80. So when you do this number, this is the sum of the weight of people, but after replacement, after the new person has come. So it's called the new sum. Let's call it new sum after the new person has come. Or let's call it new sum. That is also same way you can say it's the new sum. Now, if you want to figure out what is actually sort of happening over here and figure out the answer, and essentially the question asks me to figure out the value of y. Okay. So what I can do is look at this. The difference is 8 into 2 because 8 people and average is already 16. This 16 must be the difference between the new man. What is the new man? Is weighing new man's weight 80, and therefore, so the new man's weight would be 80 minus 16, so that is 64. So you could have done this directly also, which is absolutely fine. But what I've done is I've given you the formula-wise approach as well, and then showed you the question. Perfect, wonderful. One more question could be on let's say I can ask you, hey, these are the 5 consecutive odd numbers, and the average of all the odd numbers is 17, but they're consecutive odd. Then what do you think is the largest number? So you will just start with some number, let's say x. If it is consecutive odd, you will essentially know that x is a form of n plus 1, and it's an odd number, of course. And the average is 17 to 17. I'm just giving you verbal questions. So x and then x plus 2, x plus 4, x plus 6, x plus 8. But remember that all of this, when you add, will sum up to 17 because 17 is the average, and the sum should be same. And from there you can find out the from them there you can find out the answer. Now I want to show you one question, but that question is good question. It's based on the idea of means. And let's see that question as well. This question is on the idea of arithmetic mean, and it is maybe solvable through the idea of weighted average. So I'm just writing it for you. This is how it is. So two men, R and S, take up a typing job. Take up a typing job requiring 100 pages to be type. Now, this S person charges $20 per hour. And there's one more guy, which is R, and R being 2 times as fast as S charges $30. What both of them work for 6 hours? Both work for 6 hours. What is the average hourly wage they earn? What is the average hourly wage they earn? So let's see the solution. If you look at this question, you will realize that this is an arithmetic progression ka question, and this question will tell you that you understand from the perspective of two people, and R and S, these two people are basically uh, are doing a typing job, and they have a fixed rate as well. Now let's see what is the work. The work is to type 100 pages. There is the fixed rate, and there's also an efficiency involved. So which means that R is 2 times as fast and charges 30. Both work for 6 hours. What is the average hourly wage they earn? So imagine that R is 2 times as fast. So let's say that R does X pages, then S would do what, 2X pages, because he is 2 times as fast. Now, if they're all working for 6 hours, they would have done 3X into 6, that is 18X. And this 18X is equal to 100. So we'll get X from here, which is basically 100 upon 18. But the hourly rates are different, right? And the hourly rates would be dependent on